Today, we're going to be going over the Million Dollar Baby strategy. It's a revolutionary new way for families to think about leaving a legacy to either their children, their grandchildren, nieces, nephews, or really any child in your life that you care a lot about. The Million Dollar Baby strategy was introduced in the best-selling book, How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker. It's the first financial education book that anyone at any age, at really any learning level, can enjoy and benefit from age 10 to age 100 and everybody in between. And speaking of the number 100, the book has now been featured on over 100 prominent TV shows, including CNBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, as well as many others. Also, it's received a very rare endorsement by the Heartland Institute of Financial Education. And of course, it's all over the web. Please follow us for weekly tips and practical ideas. All of this is part of an exciting mission to make the knowledge of exactly how money works, that critical life skill that's not taught in schools, accessible to every family and every parent, which brings us to our topic today. If there's about to be a new little one in your life, regardless of whether it's your child, your grandchild, a new niece, nephew, you always want that child to have a better life than you have. That's natural. The example you're going to see today is an example of how to reimagine how parents and families can leave a legacy for their kids. It's a strategy that applies the power of compound interest and the time value of money in a way that makes the traditional end-of-life wealth transfer seem old-fashioned, unnecessary, and quite frankly, out of date. We call it the Million Dollar Baby. Think about it as one of the greatest gifts you can possibly give to a child, a future. Million Dollar Baby is a common sense strategy that empowers families to create a legacy for their children without having to be wealthy. Would you have guessed that only 20% of children are going to receive an inheritance? It's probably even lower than that now that so many people have faced the challenges of this year, 2020. In light of this sad statistic and our present reality, it's time to completely rethink how parents actually leave a legacy. If you want to give your children $1 million at retirement, which one of these two options is more likely? You can either give them $1 million in cash when they're adults, if you've saved enough, or you develop a plan to save a fraction of that amount for each child while they're still young. We know how hard it is for retirement-age parents to preserve the inheritance for the adult children. With seniors living longer, almost all of their savings may be required to cover decades of expenses, including medical bills and long-term care. The new reality of longevity can remove the possibility of leaving an inheritance the old way. Since it's so hard to leave an inheritance today, why not use the greatest financial asset your child has? And that's time. They have an entire life of it. What could the power of compounding do for your child over 67 years? Well, let's take a look. Million Dollar Baby leverages three simple money concepts: the power of compound interest, the time value of money, and then wealth protection. This is one of my favorite quotes from Nelson Henderson. The true meaning of life is to plant trees whose shade you do not expect to sit. So could you use the money principles you learned today to save $1 million for your child or your grandchild? It's actually a lot easier than you think. The following examples are simply to illustrate on how this can actually work. In this example, Dana puts $13,000 aside one time and leaves it there from her daughter's birth until her daughter turns age 67. At a growth rate of 6.5%, it grows to a little bit over $1 million. If Dana waits until her daughter graduates from high school, her daughter only receives about $300,000 when she returns 67. What a difference that 18 years can really make. Hector doesn't have $13,000 sitting around, but he still wants his son to retire with $1 million. He and his relatives can work together to save just $2,500 now and then $250 each month for the next 4 years. Then, like magic, they'll hit their goal too. His son also retires with $1 million waiting for him. If Hector waits till his son turns 18 years of old, it's the same old story as if Dana had waited, much less. Once again, a little over 300 grand. We're developing a calculator that will allow you to play with the numbers to see what they might look like for your situation. In the meantime, your financial professional can help you decide. 250 children born every minute could live a vastly different life if their parents or grandparents did this for them while they're still young. And remember, that's the key. Now you see why we call this strategy $1 Million Baby. How appreciative would your kids be one day, perhaps when you're gone, that their parents thought enough about their future, knew enough about how money works, and actually acted in love to take care of them. That's a thank you that could change your legacy and your memory forever. Sucker-minded people leave it all up to chance. They may not consciously think about it, but they're embracing a notion that sounds something like this. I hate to say it, but my kids will probably have to fend for themselves. They'll be lucky if I don't end up moving into their basement. The wealthy-minded think radically different. They realize what a dream come true it would be to give their children the financial advantage their kids could count on for the future. Their mindset sounds more like this: if there's an affordable way to set my kids up to be taken care of in their later years, my family and I will get it done. The sucker is resolved to accept limitations. They don't know any other possibility. The wealthy, on the other hand, use the empowerment of education to do so much more for their families. It's all a matter of knowing how money works and acting on that education and knowledge when their children, once again, are still young. This brings us to the end of our presentation, and now you have an entirely new way to think about leaving a legacy for the children in your life. Instead of feeling regret at the end of our lives at how little we have to give, we only need to give a little in the beginning of their lives, and that's the key once again. And down the road, no matter how many mistakes they make along the way, they will marvel at how much you were able to provide for them. I invite you to get together with your financial professional right away. Don't let another week go by. There are so many options and possibilities, no matter where you are with your personal finances, to put the $1 Million Baby strategy in place for your kids. A meeting can be scheduled, and in the next few days, you could actually have the education, the knowledge, and the action game plan to set your kids up for life.